The cameras were flashing, the crowd was just roaring, and the story of this perfect power couple seemed completely solid. It was just 1 week ago. Kandi Burruss is on stage at BravoCon 2025, and she's accepting the Lifetime Achievement Award.
Right.
And it was this huge, very public celebration of her decade-long marriage and business partnership with Todd Tucker. She looks right at him and thanks him for surviving the blogs, the rumors, the reunions. But the applause hadn't even really settled before the news just broke. 11 years of marriage, done. The official statements talked about, peace and a new chapter, but that's just the surface, isn't it? We are diving into the real story here, this multi-million-dollar empire just dissolving behind the scenes. And it all seems to center on this dramatic $200,000 corporate lawsuit that really may have been the final straw. Welcome to Starscope Report.
Today, we're dissecting the sudden end of this celebrity coupling. We're tracing the timeline from that huge public dedication straight to a divorce filing that came just 7 days later. And this isn't just about a marriage ending. It's about the strategic dismantling of a huge shared financial world.
Right. And our mission today is to connect that polished, we're all good narrative to the really high-stakes legal battle that was already threatening their entire restaurant empire. I mean, what truly defines an amicable split when you've got a fortune of around $30 million on the line and this looming $200,000 corporate debt? We're going to unpack it all for you.
Okay, so let's start with the emotional core and just the timeline. Kandi, who was 49, from the Real Housewives of Atlanta, or RHOA, and Todd, 52, a really successful producer. They meet back in 2011 on season 4. They get married in April 2014, and I mean, they quickly became the definition of a power couple.
And they didn't just merge their lives.
They merged their industries.
Exactly. They built this huge blended family. You've got Kandi's daughter, Riley, who's 23, Todd's daughter, Kyla, 29, and then their 2 kids together, Ace, who's 9, and Blaze, who's 5. But the empire they built was, I'd argue, it was even more complicated than the family dynamic.
Oh, absolutely. When we talk about a dissolution here, we're talking about unspooling a conglomerate. They started the Old Lady Gang, or OLG, soul food chain, which was based on Kandi's mom and her aunts. Then they opened the more upscale Blaze Steak and Seafood. They had a trucking company. There are production companies making other reality TV shows, like the spinoff Kandi and the Gang, which was all about the restaurants.
So the partnership was the brand.
It was everything.
And yet we have this clinically precise timeline. The divorce is announced on November 21st, 2025. And then sources immediately start leaking that they'd actually been separated for months. Kandi was already living in her New York City home.
And that detail is so crucial. Kandi had a professional reason to be in New York. She has this upcoming Broadway role in Juliet, which starts in December 2025. So the physical separation was already a reality. And you could see those little clues the blogs were picking up on, right?
Oh, yeah, like removing Tucker from her Instagram profile and, suddenly not wearing her wedding ring.
Exactly.
So, okay, let's just lay this out. You have the public peak BravoCon, the award, the loving shout out on stage, and then boom, the paperwork is filed 7 days later. That timing is just, it's tactical.
Yeah.
Why go through that whole performance just to end it a week later?
It's all about strategic brand management. It has to be. By waiting until after that BravoCon high, she made sure the public narrative immediately shifted. It doesn't become a story of, messy marriage failure. It becomes a story of Kandi's professional rise, her new chapter on Broadway. And her official statement totally reflected that. It was all about protecting my peace and pouring into her work, my family, and my own growth.
It reframes the whole thing. It's not a retreat. It's a proactive step forward for her career. But that kind of narrative control is only possible if the really messy financial stuff is already contained, right?
Precisely. And that containment plan goes back a whole decade to a document that actually caused huge drama on TV.
The prenup.
The prenup. That's the perfect transition. The ability to pull off this amicable exit hinges completely on that prenuptial agreement they signed back in 2014. That document, which was famously debated on their spinoff Kandi's wedding, is the financial firewall protecting her now.
And let's be real, the wealth gap at the time was enormous. Kandi's net worth is estimated around $30 million. That's from her music. I mean, she wrote No Scrubs. Her TV deals, production work. Todd's net worth was around $400,000. That's a huge financial gap to cover in any legal document.
And it made for very contentious reality TV. Todd, he initially balked at the terms. He asked if it was a expletive personal or is it just business? But the clause that really shocked viewers and showed the stakes was the one that required Todd to leave the marital home within just 30 days of a divorce.
30 days.
He was worried. He said on camera, "How do I get out of the house in 30 days?
I just can't imagine negotiating the terms of your breakup right before you walk down the aisle. It sounds awful. But you have to admire the legal foresight. What does it all mean for her now financially?
It means efficiency. The prenup was designed from the ground up to legally insulate Kandi's premarital $30 million. Her assets, her real estate, that music catalog. By making the terms of a separation crystal clear ahead of time, like that really aggressive 30-day move-out clause, they basically preempted the long, expensive legal fights we see in so many other celebrity divorces.
But wait, I remember there was a lot of drama around him actually signing it. If he signed it under duress, couldn't he just challenge it now?
Ah, and that's where the reality 2D cameras, maybe accidentally, provided the perfect legal shield. Todd did eventually sign the revised agreement, but Kandi's lawyer insisted that the signing happen on video.
No way.
Yes. That visual proof makes it almost impossible for him to claim later that he was coerced or signed under duress.
Right.
It basically solidifies the document's power in court. And that foresight is exactly why this split can be called amicable now, because the hard financial decisions were already settled a decade ago.
Wow. So the prenup protected her personal $30 million, but the business they built together, the Burruss Tucker Restaurant Group, let's call it BTRG, that didn't have the same protection, did it? In fact, that joint business was heading for a complete collapse. And if you're loving these kinds of details, make sure you're subscribed, because we're about to get into the crisis that might have ended it all.
That is the pivot point. The amicable divorce filing happened while BTRG, the company that runs Blaze Steak and Seafood, was basically drowning in a huge $200,000 lawsuit. This corporate stress. It was likely the true catastrophic stressor on the marriage.
Okay, so give us the breakdown. What exactly was this $200,000 lawsuit about?
Well, it was filed in March of 2025 by their landlord, a company called Montego Pacific, Inc. The total they demanded was over $200,000. It included $154,139.17 in overdue rent, plus another $56,495.75 for property repairs.
That's a huge amount of debt.
It is. And at the same time, we saw Blaze Steakhouse start to struggle operationally. They had limited hours, their social media went dark, and there were even reports that the flagship old lady gang spots were having issues. The whole partnership was just hemorrhaging cash and confidence.
Okay, so here's the crucial legal deep dive for you, our listener. When two people form a company like BTRG, they're usually protected by what's called the corporate veil, right? It means their personal assets are separate from the business debts. But sometimes the landlord makes you sign a personal guarantee.
Yep. That's exactly right. And a personal guarantee is a clause where the business owner agrees to be personally responsible for the corporate debt-like rent if the business can't pay. This means the landlord can sue the individual, so Kandi or Todd, to get their money. And if Kandi had a valid personal guarantee on that lease, her $30 million would be at risk.
And this is where Kandi's legal genius just shines through again.
It is, absolutely. In March 2025, right as this lawsuit was really picking up steam, Kandi Burruss was successfully dismissed as a personal defendant. Her legal team successfully argued that her personal guarantee on that lease had expired.
Get out.
It's true. That single legal move isolated the entire $200,000 liability completely within the BTRG corporate entity. It protected her individual premarital wealth from ever being touched.
Wait, hold on. So she had the prenup protecting her from marital property division, and then she strategically gets her name removed from the personal liability on the corporate debt right before filing for divorce. That's not just smart asset protection. That's a massive power move.
It really speaks to a very clear, very deliberate plan. And once her personal assets were totally insulated, the focus shifted to the corporate legal war. BTRG, now on the hook for the whole $200, filed a counterclaim. They accused the landlord of failing to fix plumbing and foundation issues that caused all this water damage. They were trying to shift the blame.
So how did that legal fight escalate?
Oh, it got incredibly heated by July 2025. Kandi's legal team actually had to request an emergency hearing. And you know why?
Why?
They accused the landlord of harassment for demanding almost $200,000 in rent outside of the ongoing lawsuit. The judge denied that emergency motion, which just highlights that this joint business was deep in a really messy, really costly legal battle.
This all suggests that the piece Kandi talked about in her divorce announcement was actually the piece she got by cutting the financial and legal ties to a business that was obviously failing. The $200,000 problem just wasn't worth saving the marriage over.
She was executing a controlled demolition of their joint assets. She insulated herself first and then announced her big move towards professional independence. It protected her wealth. But the story isn't over.
Stay tuned and hit that subscribe button. We have to address how their co-parenting plan gets complicated now that Kandi is officially making her new home on Broadway.
So what we've really analyzed here is well, the meticulous simultaneous collapse of Kandi and Todd's shared corporate dream. And it happened at the exact same time as Kandi's successful strategic move toward her own professional independence.
She prioritized her personal growth, her very profitable return to Broadway, and she just ruthlessly protected her private assets with these preemptive legal moves. It's fascinating.
It is. And the story of this whole dissolution really shows that when a marriage is both deeply personal and a highly capitalized business, the legal groundwork is everything. That really contested prenup, the strategic timing of separating assets. That's what's paramount. It allows the narrative of an amicable split to actually hold up, even when there's $200,000 in corporate debt and a huge lawsuit looming in the background.
And beyond the money and the lawsuits, you still have the human element. Kandi and Todd share 2 young kids, Ace and Blaze. Kandi says she's committed to co-parenting, but her immediate future involves months, maybe years, living in New York City for her Broadway show. Meanwhile, their family home, their life is all in Atlanta.
So we're looking at a very complex, high-stakes, bicoastal custody arrangement. And it involves 2 extremely entrepreneurial parents who are now, professionally, moving in completely opposite directions. And the final provocative thought for you to consider is this. When the logistical challenges of co-parenting are this immense, demanding a level of communication and structure that very few separating couples can ever achieve, can that love and respect they're promising their children truly survive the miles and these brand new chapters?
You've been listening to Starscope Report, where we uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.